Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As I rise into the circle of death in the front of you, I spoke to my wife this morning. She said, "What are you doing today, dear?" I said, "I'm speaking at the Huddersfield Odeon." She said, "I hope you're not going to rise through the floor playing your organ." Well, as you can see, I'm not. My training is as a soil chemist and biochemist, and my job is very simple within BASF, is to make sure that the right products for us are used in the right place at the right time, safely. Keyword safely and sustainably. I'm going to talk to you about birds, bees and biodiversity, and I'm going to take you on a little tour around the farm of one of the two farms that I have in the UK to show you how it works. Now, this farm here in front of you is in Rawcliffe in deepest Yorkshire. It's green most days. Right now it's pretty wet. You'll see the checkerboard in front of you, bottom right hand side, is a trial site of 36 different varieties of wheat, which if you didn't know there are 36 varieties of wheat in the world, well, there's a hell of a lot more than that. There's around about 70 for sale in the UK, and there we use our products at the right place at the right time to give us fantastic yields. Now, the national yield of wheat in the UK is around 8 tonnes to the hectare. Using the right technology and using the right soils and the right stuff at the right time, we can deliver 12 tonnes to the hectare. That's a 50% increase. At the moment, there are some questions being posed to us about, is that sustainable? At the same time, we're faced with looking at what the 9 billion population that you've heard about already today, and can we feed that in the next few years? One of the tasks that I have is to generate that technology that we can do that. But, and it is a big but, at the same time, we need a sustainable agriculture in terms of looking after the birds and bees. So we have an interesting tightrope to walk. To the left of that checkerboard that you can see is a load of strips. And the strips there are the technology of different crops that we can grow for birds. And the technology works that if you grow the right crops for birds, because they sit at the top of the food chain, you tend to get all the other insects and bits and pieces underneath that correct within the food chain, and therefore the whole thing becomes sustainable. Does everybody follow? So the simple trick that we have to do is shift the technology that we use to grow crops and use the same technology to grow crops for birds. Nice little tight little job description, takes a long time to get right, and I'm going to give you the story now of how it goes together. One of the challenges here is to make sure that what we say is believed, because I work for what some people would see as a nasty chemical company. It's probably one of the biggest chemical companies in the world, 105,000 employees with a turnover around 70-odd billion euros. So we're playing big boys games. But if I stand up and give you a data set that says something that somebody might not believe, you don't believe me. So I have to work with third parties, and this is where communication and cooperation comes into what I want to say today. So I use third parties. So the secret that we have here on these demonstration farms is we work with the farmers. Strangely enough, we talk to people. Strangely enough, also, we talk to third-party experts who can deliver the messages for us, but more importantly, give me an independent database of a fantastic data set that I can carry forward. And it is their data. It's not mine. I just merely present it. The third thing that we do is we talk to all sorts of different audiences, from school children right the way through schools, colleges, universities, advisors on farms, farmers themselves, the distribution network that we use, and indeed up to the other set of children right at the other end of the scale, who sometimes are operating in Parliament, because their needs are very simple in comparison to other children at the other end of the scale. And for those of you who are mums and dads, you know that lovely question, why? Well, that's the one I have to answer every day of the week. And it comes right the way across the piece. So let's move on. Here's the farm. The last slide was a view from the north. This is a view from the south. So we've spun ourselves round. The black dots indicate the area that I survey. It's about 140 hectares. So for those of you who don't know how big a hectare is, it's about a football pitch size. So we've got 140 football pitches here. These blue bits are where we link to water. Every field on the farm has a couple of ditches on either side. And these are substantial waterways, and believe me, right now, they're full of it. This area here is the biodiversity area. This is where we look into what happens within the wood and within the strips on the edge of the fields. And this bit here is where we make our money. We're a commercial organisation. That's where we work out what to do. Right stuff, right place, right time. This is about water. This is the land. This is one of the big ditches on the farm. From the top of the ditch to the bottom is around 4 meters. So you can see when this is full, there's a hell of a lot of water in there, and it's very nearly full right now. And one of our challenges here, and I want to go back a slide actually to this slide here, is to work out how best to use the produce from the farm. If you see in the background, can you see top right is Drax Power Station, which has already been mentioned once today. That sits on top of the biggest coal reserve in the UK. All the coal for this comes in from the Eastern Bloc. Interesting. The other challenge that the farmers around here are left with is every farm within 50 kilometres radius of Drax Power Station has the option of selling his crops for burning. Now that poses a very interesting question when we're looking at a world that needs more food. And if they don't sell it for burning, they can also sell it into the energy production industry. So we can either make ethanol out of it from the wheat, or we can, from the oilseed rape, we can make diesel. Or we can sell it, specialty oils, to McDonald's for the safest oil to fry your chips in. Safer than the olive oil that some people might choose. So, lovely little couple of conundrums there. For the same reason, the farmer can also sell all his wheat, about 1.2 million tonnes of it, if you really want to know how much it is, and ship it across the Pennines into Manchester for turning into starch. And that's industrial starch, it's not for food. So we have a big industry here which is capable of delivering raw material into various different industries. So back to the water. What do I do here? Well, again, it's about a shift of technology. Some of you will know that one of the water treatment plants just upstream here at Elvington needs to remove around about 18,000 tonnes of soil out of the water each year. And most of that just comes in through lateral movement. Well, some of the technology that I have in terms of growing these strips of crops around the edges of fields is I can help stop that by reducing the lateral movement. And at the same time, I can put barriers up alongside the ditches and waterways of a crop that's about 2 meters tall to perhaps stop any granular fertilizer being thrown into the ditch, or indeed any spray drift going into the ditch as well. And that's an area that's really important, resource protection, really critical for us. So we've got some great science going on here, and it's hard science. It's supported by some massive data sets. And these are just a couple of front covers from the Biodiversity Action Plan that I've produced since about 2003 on the farm. And what I rely on is great photography here, because a great picture sells a great message. But inside this great picture, inside this report, is a huge amount of data. I can tell you which birds were in which fields, in which weeks of which months of which year. I can tell you what they were feeding on. I can tell you just about everything you need to know. And I have the same level of detail about butterflies and increasing levels of detail about bees. So, the story now is about birds. We're constantly talked to by the RSPB and other interested environmental organisations about producing biodiversity. Birds are in high focus, so I've concentrated on birds for the first few weeks. So here we are. These are some front covers of the different reports. Great photographs, really iconic birds. Quickly now, I just want to show you some of the detail of the data. And I'll flash through this, but you'll get the picture very, very quickly. The green bits on here are winter wheat, the biggest crop we have in the UK. The yellow bits are oilseed rape. That's the yellow stuff that a lot of people complain about because they feel they have an allergy to it, but that's where a lot of the cooking oils come from. You'll notice in 2008 here in the middle, there is no oilseed rape in the cropping. Can you see that okay? And then I want now to link this across to the number of birds that I've counted across these years. Now this is slightly technical, but essentially we have around about 65 birds each year on the farm, 65 different species of birds, I should say. The cumulative total for the 10 years we've been doing this is around 110 different species. I can tell you how many birds there are if you really want to. And what you've got here is the bottom line, the black line, is the UK average territory density of the Farmland Bird Index. That gives you an idea of how rich the biodiversity is across the piece in the UK. Quite clearly, we've got an increase in biodiversity because we've got an increase in bird number going left to right. And in this area here, in 2008, you can see no oilseed rape, no birds. Simple reason, 24 different species of birds feed in rape, 6 to 8 nest in it. The hidden reason is in 2007 and 2008, very wet, cold summers. Now, the only chick that I know that can float that's ground nesting is called a duckling. We don't have too many of those in the middle of arable fields. So, bad weather or bad cropping gives a change in bird number. Simple. This is what the overall species map looks like. And this is a breeding territory taken 5 or 6 times across the year. And you can see that the farm here has got different areas of different concentrations of birds. The darkish areas in the middle are where the old mature trees are. Can you see that okay? Whereas there are different species around it. If the bead in the top here, the top field with the biggest number of birds in is where the oilseed rape is. The rape moves around the fields in different years, so the bird distribution changes. This is 2011. So, 2003, 2011. More birds, less birds? More birds. Good answer. So whatever we're doing is right. Now, the density of birds within the wooded areas and also across the fields are changing because fields don't have glass walls. We need to make sure that we can count them. This is the skylark territories in 2010. Highly emotive bird. Quality of data is critical for us. And how do I know that's where the skylarks are? Because this is the skylark movement and behavior chart. And I have this level of detail for all the different species of birds that exist on the farm. So if you want to challenge me about bird numbers later, I'll be happy to see you in the bar. Nest boxes is a great story. These are big nest boxes for big birds. This is a little nest box for little birds. This is the tree sparrow. We have a 32mm hole, and we can get birds into there as easy as kiss your hand. This is what we've done in terms of nest box utilization. Started off with 30. We've moved up to just over 100, and you can see the occupation now is around about 85%. It's a great occupancy for a hotel, and therefore I call it farmhouse bed and breakfast. Simple things, simple mitigation, but that's what's helped me get my bird numbers up. We do the same things for bees and butterflies by focusing on putting good flowers within grassy areas. And we can do, isn't that lovely? Ladies' bed straw. That's where you get your butterflies. That's where you get your bees. So, at the end of the day, what I can deliver is a fantastic number of birds. And this is a flock of swifts and swallows that have come in to pick the beetles up that are flying above the crops. My last slide. What this is all about, ladies and gentlemen, is cooperating with people. It's about keeping the farmer happy and talking to him. It's about talking to the experts who can help deliver those messages, the technology messages that we need. It's talking to all our audiences to understand that we can deliver a sustainable agriculture if we choose to use the right technology in the right place at the right time. It's about great biodiversity. It's about great agronomy, great technology coming together, and we can only do that by cooperation. That's the theme of today's conference, and with that thought, I'd like to leave you there. Let's hope we can grow enough crops to survive and keep everybody happy when we do have 9 billion people on the planet, and also deliver biodiversity at the same time. Thank you.